Rugby Happy Hour Live. Interviews with the biggest names in American rugby.
The New England Free Jacks, Major League Rugby champions. One-on-one to score.
Here are your hosts, Phil Baker and that other guy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to US Rugby Happy Hour Live. Yes, put on the glasses. It's time to read, everybody. In just a minute or two, our guest today, Will Magie, the Chicago Hounds general manager, former USA Eagle, et cetera, et cetera. We'll get into more of his CVs and his resume in a few minutes. But looking forward to talking to Will. Very busy weekend, Fitzy, in Chicago. I couldn't imagine how crazy he is. Man, Fitzy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend here. Rugby across the U.S. and I guess in Scotland, too.
Oh, good point. Good point. Across the seas, got USA Eagles going against Scotland at Murrayfield, if I have that correct, which we'll be able to watch. Whoever you are, if you are in Chicago over the weekend, pretty much every sports pub will probably have that match on, or they better. Fitzy, let's cover one or two things before we get to our guest. I know we got a bunch to talk about, so quickly we get to him. MLR signings, and today's guest is a big part of that. It's another reason why we want him on. Yeah. Chicago's signing up players. Some news for DC, your team. Not sure where Jama's going to end up. We heard some news about him moving on. Other than that, not a ton of signings yet, but I can imagine the floodgate's going to open up pretty soon. What are you thinking?
Yeah, another team that started to announce at least some re-signings. Anthem, of course, Sam Gala, Makeen Ali Khan, so no surprise there. But yeah, it's good to see teams making these announcements. And hey, maybe we'll get Will Magie to do a special announcement on the show, huh? You think we'll go for that?
I didn't set him up for that, so we'll
we just lost Will. He's not here.
Jimmy, the ground crew manager, will be back for a second. He'll give us that. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm also, I'm really excited to see where Jama lands. He's got to be up there on the list as far as players that every team wants, whether they can afford him or not, or there's room for him or not. We'll see. And even for me, if he ends up overseas, not sure where he's going to end up, but he definitely has a home somewhere. Let's put it that way. New England,
Just don't go to New England, for the love of God.
Yes, don't go there. All right, let's do this. Our guest is waiting. With that said, our lovely jingle writing crew has come up with something very Chicago Irish.
Oh.
Here goes.
1, 2, 3, 4!
No bounds. 2026 in his sights. Can Chicago get to the finals this time? It would not astound. Welcome to the show, Eagle number 5 or 7. Now Major League Rugby General Manager Will Magie. Yay!
Yay! Will, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. That was quite the introduction.
Yes. And like we said, every guest, if you want that on your pod player, your music player, whatever you want, we can send that to you. Or I don't know, when the team does some introductions, some events, they can introduce you that way as well. So it's there for you. Will, the last time I spoke to you, you were just a lowly rugby player way back in 2021. You were training like during COVID, post-COVID, or whatever it was, on some small college field in New Hampshire. I believe that was you. I could be wrong there, but it could be somebody else. Yes, yes. But man, how you been? I mean, you've come a long way, and we'll get more into that in a minute.
I'm good, thank you, Bill. Yeah, no, I've been really good, thank you. Obviously, love my time as a player. Knew when it was time to sort of hang them up, and went out on my own terms, which was incredible. Not many guys get to do that, and have just really enjoyed, the work that I have done over the past few years. And everyone asked, like, do you miss it? I don't miss not being able to walk down the stairs on a Sunday morning. I'm still obviously amongst the team and the guys every day, which is amazing. And I really do love what I do now more than I did towards the back end of playing, which I'm very grateful for.
Well, that's very good. We do definitely want to dive into that in a few minutes. But let's get into the immediate news or stuff going on in Chicago this week, which I'm sure is keeping you busy, as well as Hounds specific duties. Ireland, New Zealand, if anyone is living under a rock and hasn't heard, they are playing at Soldier Field this weekend. Last time they played together, this match was in 2016, so it's the rematch. Crazy weekend there. Chicago Cubs parade was going on at the same time back then. Crazy this weekend with Halloween going on at the same time as this one. Are you super crazy this week? I mean, or are you able to concentrate on Chicago Hounds specifically stuff?
No, we've been pretty busy since about Tuesday last week. So we've been hosting Ireland here at SeatGeek Stadium, which has been an unbelievable experience. They've been great visitors, but it's been really cool to be walking the corridors with, you know, all their unbelievable players, but also their management, coaching staff, which includes Paul O'Connell, Johnny Sexton, Andy Farrell, like, you know, and we also have our academy performance squad guys in the building at the moment. So we've been jiggling that, you know, the use of the gym, the use of the locker rooms, all of that, but seeing the faces on some of our young guys as they walk past, you know, Josh van der Fleer and, you know, players of that caliber has been pretty cool.
That's very cool. I mean, so listeners, if you're not familiar with it, there's a bunch of events going on this weekend in Chicago. If you're there, you know, US Rugby Foundation is putting on a couple as well. There's a Friday night Halloween party at Chief O'Neill's, you know, Todd Clever, Alex Corpusero, James English from the Hounds, Chicago Pipes and Drums. I guess they're calling it the official rematch Halloween party. And then pregame on Saturday, there's at least a dozen pregame events going on, including another foundation event called the Afternoon Rugby Luncheon, or Lost Afternoon Rugby Luncheon. Scott and Gavin Hastings, you know, historic Scottish rugby legends will be there as well. And I know there are tickets still available for those, so pick those up. This is a non-sponsored read, by the way. I want to throw this out there because I just love everything going on in Chicago. I don't even know where to go from there. Well, are you going to be at any of these events, or should I say, if people are in town, where can they find you and say hello to you?
Yeah, for sure. So for us, it really kicks off tomorrow night. We are hosting the Rugby Pod. So the Hounds are sponsoring the Rugby Pod, which is obviously Jim Hamilton, Andy Good, at Recess down in the West Loop of Chicago for one of their live shows, which will be awesome. I think they're in New York tonight, potentially doing another live show as well. So we'll be at that. We'll have a good presence there. And then, like you mentioned, the Halloween party on Friday. I won't be in attendance. I'm going to be trick-or-treating with my 16-month-old daughter. So I'm very excited for that. But then, then looking forward to Saturday morning. We've obviously got England, Australia first up, which is going to be good because Chris Latham just got back in town. So I'm sure we'll have a friendly wager over that. Followed by, of course, the Eagles Scotland and then the All Blacks Ireland game, which we'll be in attendance to as well. So it's very exciting.
I mean, Will, this might be the most obvious question here, but I mean, what does this match, you know, Ireland, New Zealand hosted here in Chicago? What does this match, the magnitude of this match, mean for the city of Chicago, and maybe even just like the local rugby clubs in the area?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, like in terms of the last part of that, John, like the local rugby clubs have got a league, a Midwest rugby bye. So there's no rugby taking place in the Midwest this weekend, for that game to try and build as much excitement, anticipation, and as many people to be able to go and be a part of the festivities, which is really cool that they've done that. In terms of the city of Chicago and rugby, like from a Hounds perspective, it allows us to sort of bring some potential sponsors in and see what the scope of how big rugby can be, obviously at an extremely high level with, top, I think, second and third ranked teams in the world. But if the Hounds can feed off that a little bit in the future as we build towards sort of 2031 and onwards, it's just a huge opportunity. And then again, selfishly for us, like having Ireland here all week long, seeing what facilities we operate with, they've been thrilled with, what we've been able to provide for them. And we hope as we lead towards 2031, we can continue to be sort of a host site and a host for other teams that come into town.
I mean, Chicago continues to be a central hub for staging international rugby matches in the U.S. I mean, going back to obviously U.S. versus New Zealand way back a few years ago, and obviously now in the rematch here, New Zealand, Ireland. I mean, can fans anticipate Chicago continuing to host many more international rugby matches, and in the run up to 2031? Can you reveal anything? Any other bigger event?
I don't know. That's above my pay grade, but I know, like, I think they love being here. the players obviously enjoy it. They've been out and about doing Bulls games, Black Hawks game, like all of that sort of stuff. So it's a really fun time for them. Less so for the operations team that we've been working closely with, and the kit men and all of that sort of stuff that are lugging stuff thousands of miles across the Atlantic. But they love it. It's their home away from home. I think they get looked after pretty well here. And no, it's been a great experience for both us and them, I think.
You mentioned kit there, and I can see you sporting the Chicago Hounds gear right there, nice little sweatshirt. You got the Chicago Hounds logo behind you there, but maybe it's just me, but walking around the city, are you seeing more fans wearing Chicago Hounds merch around town, or is there more Chicago Hounds merch out there? Because that's the big thing, right? Like fans want to wear their favorite players, gear or team wear. Are we seeing more Chicago Hound stuff in and around Chicago?
Yeah, definitely. Like our commercial team does an unbelievable job with that. It's always fun when you see a bumper sticker or a magnet or people just walking through the streets wearing Hounds gear. It is still kind of like stops you in your tracks a little bit. Hopefully that becomes the new normal. We also have an amazing partner with Clark Street Sports, who have a number of brick and mortar stores within Chicago where our jerseys are side by side with the Cubs, the Bears, like all of that sort of stuff, which is pretty cool to see photos of our players in the store. I know they're doing a big event. I forget the exact location of which store it is tomorrow. But all our stuff's in there. They've brought in All Blacks jerseys, Ireland jerseys. So again, they're trying to bring in and gain traction off the event and stuff like that, which is really cool.
I remember walking through the tourist area of Dublin a number of years back and seeing one of the sports shops with all the Ireland jerseys and then USA Rugby jerseys as well in the window. Maybe a couple of them. I'm like, someone might have put it there, but I'm pretty sure they sell them also. But that's for me, that was amazing. And it still amazes me now. You look in like airport shops, let's say, are selling, local club merchandise. When I say local club, maybe not the Chicago Lions, but Chicago Hounds as well. So it's come a long way, and I love seeing it. I had no question there. That's just my opinion, my thought there. But, Will, let's jump in about your position with the team now. We dabbled into it earlier. It's been a quick run, right? You retired, I think it was 22, I think you said, you had a short time as a head of player ops, short time as director of rugby operations, and now general manager, relieving some duties from James English. So talk about a couple of things. One, your conversations with James taking over this position, what his goals are for you, and also what are your goals as the GM for the Hounds?
Yeah, I think first and foremost in that regard is like James has been an unbelievable mentor to me and continues to do so. Like we talk, I think probably like me and my wife and then me and James, and I'm sure he'd echo that same sentiment, like in terms of like we're on the phone a lot and we will continue to do so. Then we bounce ideas off each other, and he has obviously so much experience in this role, not just here in Chicago, but previously in New York, as well as just being around the rugby landscape for so long. So no, he's been an amazing mentor, and I'm very appreciative for him. In terms of my role and whatnot, like first and foremost, want to build a successful team that get Chicago a Major League Rugby championship. Like we have an unbelievable foundation from all the work that James and coaches and we've all been a part of over the last few years. Just that's my ultimate goal, is to win that. Never got it done as a player. We fell agonizingly short when I played for Glendale in the final. We've fallen agonizingly short the last 2 years to New England, and we are, all guns blazing to take a couple steps further and lift the shield.
I know you don't want to rehash this, but how tough was that one this last year in New England?
It was
so
tough.
Close.
It was tough. And Latha and I were actually just talking about it a few minutes ago, rewatching that game, how well we played. We knew New England would come back because they're a fantastic team and they have that experience. And we were a couple coats of paint away. So it was brutal, but that's sport, that's rugby. And ultimately we got to move on and get back to it and overcome that hurdle.
Yeah.
Well, looking into the off season, certainly a couple of weeks, months there, MLR fans a little nervous, on edge about whether or not the league would continue to operate. And certainly it was good to see that statement coming out from Major League Rugby that, hey, 2026 was going to happen. I mean, I guess from your point of view, from like the club's point of view, were you guys, your operations department, concerned or worried about not having a 2026 season, or was it still just we're marching on here?
Yeah, I live my life of like control the things that I can control, and if there's something I can do about it, then that's awesome, and I'm going to do that. And if there isn't, I can't do anything about it anyway. So like, I think we did try and adopt that approach of like, we're going to just continue on as it is, status quo. We have a fantastic ownership group that, filtered down the information that was pertinent for James and myself and the coaching staff to continue on and do our jobs the best that we can. We're, again, speaking of our ownership group, they invest in our academy and our performance squad, which runs in the MLR off season, which was a great, distractor, I guess, for some of the noise that was going on and whatnot. But that's kept us really busy with our full-time staff here and helping to develop the next crop of American talent. So yeah, we just cracked on and we're very excited for 2026.
I mean, with 4 teams bound out, there's 4 MLR teams bound out. Unfortunately, there's a lot of quality players, without a team here. Certainly you guys have started to make some signings, a couple. I'm sure there are more coming. Feel free to share any here. But were you were you as a GM here putting together the roster for this 2026 season? Were you kind of, I don't know, salivating maybe, dreaming up of some of the players you could scoop up for the squad?
I think the hard part is that I've been through that as a player too, quite recently as well with Austin. So it's a very delicate situation because in the position I'm in now, it was unique that we could offer, some reassurance and that, hey, I know what you're going through. We're stable. We want to bring you into Chicago, but you also have to be, cognizant of the fact that these guys have just had everything they knew for that last season or however long, like completely like torn up in front of them. So it is a difficult situation. And then ultimately you have to go back to like what my job is now with the Hounds, and that's to put together the most competitive roster that we can. And exactly, John, there's some fantastic players that are on those teams. And, we've been pretty bullish and made it our priority to go after some of those players that we want to help us win championships.
Actually, it's a really good perspective, and I think maybe got lost there from our point of view, right? The human element, right? Like as you mentioned, there are players now who, they could potentially be re-signed by another team, and the fans would be excited about it. But particularly if they have roots or family members, they have to uproot them, move to another city. If they have young kids, get them established in school. It's not as easy as a signing and up you go. I mean, how difficult is navigating some of those conversations? Because I can imagine there may be opportunities where you'd like to bring a guy on board, but maybe they don't want to move, or maybe this is it for them. I guess you'd talk about just like how you guys approach that, given the human element in all of this.
Yeah, and I think that's really important too. And certainly how I've tried to go about it is be as open and transparent with the players that we can be. Like, here are the parameters we can work in, like here, that we're working within now. Here's what we can offer you as a contract. And if that works for you, then we would love nothing more than Chicago to be your home, and we will help you in any and every way we can. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't. And we have to be, respectful and understanding of that too. The last thing we want is to, bring players here under false pretenses that they don't get here, and what they think they've signed up for isn't what they've signed up for. So, obviously there's limitations to that, and creating the barriers to that is part of my job. But if we can be open and transparent about what we can and can't do, then the players have free will to make that decision themselves.
Well, was there a waiting game this offseason before you could sign players, as in MLR coming out with new international slot rules? Or was that a problem for you in the offseason?
Without going into like too much detail, we were we had timelines that we had to adhere to, basically. So, those timelines are now fully active, which is obviously what's led to the influx of activity and all of that sort of stuff. But I think, they just wanted to make sure they understood the full picture before things started happening, which I think is fair enough.
So, as the official GM, I think you believe your first signing was Tavit Lepete out of San Diego. Phenomenal center, in my mind, probably the top center in the league, or one of the top. And with Bryce retiring as well, seems like a great fit. Now, I want to dabble into the other players as well, including him. But as you're looking at players available on the market, what is the priority? The spots you need to fill, or the best available?
It's a good question, Bill, because obviously there was a lot of availability, so it made it a bit different. I think for us was like, go back to what I said previously. We've had unbelievable foundations laid here in Chicago with some of the recruitment that we've done over the past few years. So for us, it was like, okay, what do we have here? Who do we want here that's a non-negotiable, and who do we want to bring back? And within that, there's players that, for one reason or another, that they're not going to be back next year. And Bryce was an example of that, right? So, Bryce is a very, very close friend of mine. He made a decision similar to me to go out on his own terms and start the next chapter of his life. And, as a friend, I'm like, gutted we won't get to do this together. But then I flick the switch and I'm like, right, who's the next best? Who in? And someone like Tavit Lepete is a very hot commodity, and we're very lucky that and happy that he's signed with the Hounds for next year.
And let's go the other direction now. One of the newest guys in the league, Peyton Wall, you re-signed him. Talk about his skills and what he's going to mean to this team down the road for the future.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton has been everything he's got so far, he's worked incredibly hard for and deserves it all. So, the moment we drafted him, he was into our academy set up. He was working hard playing with the Chicago Lions. That he was a club, that was his club affiliate from years gone by anyway. That comes back to the openness and the transparency that we were with him. Is like, you're coming in as a drafted winger with Nate Augsburger, Mark O'Keefe, Noah Brown, Julian Dominguez, all ahead of you in the depth chart as it stands. And he just got on with his business, put his head down, worked extremely hard, through the off season into the season. And it still took 9 to 10 weeks before he obviously got his opportunity. But we're so proud of him and the work he put in, but also proud of the pathway that we have created for someone like Peyton and others to actually excel and succeed, so that he's getting all the accolades he deserves now. And it was a no-brainer that he's the future of this team, and we're pumped that he re-signed as well.
Yeah, we'll a couple other players here. We'll quickly, you don't have to comment on all of them, but bringing back Michael Baska, scrum half again, capped Eagle, Mark O'Keefe coming back, capped Eagle, noticing a trend here. Nathan Den Hoyt, right, who I believe is a pathway player, right, that designation there, signing from Houston. And then from the Miami Sharks, Chile's Santiago, excuse my Spanish here, Videla, I believe I pronounced that correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's an interesting signing there, one that I wasn't expecting. What did you guys see in Santiago, and kind of how do you see him fitting in there on the 10 jersey? Maybe even 15, right?
You're answering the question for me, John.
Right. Do you need assistant GM? I'm happy to,
I've admired Santiago for a number of years, way back to when Chile actually qualified over the Eagles for the 20 whatever World Cup it was. First and foremost, like, he's a fantastic person, and we did a lot of due diligence around him and understanding what he is, as a person, and speaking to people that I trust to understand that, because that's so important. But then my point with what you were saying is his versatility is unbelievable. Like, he's played 10 for Miami, 12 for Chile. He's played 15 for Miami and Chile. He's played on the wing for Chile. Like, he is what you're looking for as in my mind as a foreign player in this competition, that he can fill a number of different slots where needed. And that's not to necessarily say that he won't nail down one of those, but having the flexibility to build a roster around where a player can actually be a bit of a Swiss Army knife for you and be an extremely talented rugby player whilst doing that is quite rare. And, Latho and Noel Reed, our backs coach, were like, this is someone that that's available and that we want to bring into Chicago. So, that was kind of the thought process behind Santi.
Yeah, and as you're continuing to, oh, there goes Bill. He'll be right back. Live internet, this happens. But as you're continuing to put the roster, as you continue to put the roster together, there's Bill. Bill, I thought you lost it for a second.
Went away. Yeah, keep going.
Try this for the third time. Yeah, Bill or Will. Sorry, let's try that fourth time.
Don't know
Will,
what
as
happened
you're
there.
continuing to put the roster together, obviously, a lot's going to happen, right? Like injuries are going to happen, bad breaks, and bounce off the post. I guess in your mind, as putting the roster together, what's it going to take for the Hounds to take that next step to get to their first MLR finals?
Yeah, it starts with, like I've mentioned a couple of times now, like the foundations, and as we continue to announce players, both new signings and a lot of re-signings, which is we're very happy that we've created an environment where players want to continue to play their rugby here in Chicago. So if there are any Hounds fans listening, they're coming. So I guess then it's exciting. We have a great core group of guys here that we want to, we want to continue to drive the standards and the culture. And as Latho and his staff come into year 2, that know how we operate and all of those sort of things. So that's really important. And then, there's obviously a plethora of good players available. We want to make sure we're bringing in the right guys. As you mentioned, like someone like Nathan Den, who's on the pathway to become US Eagle. He's someone with his experience across multiple teams that have won shields, won conferences, something like that was, again, a high priority for us. And someone that brings a wealth of experience and leadership, captaining Houston as well. So, there's probably going to be a trend around that as well. We're trying to build a squad that's ready to win.
Well, you mentioned earlier about the performance squad. Players in this team also play for clubs in the Midwest Premiership. And it seems like between the Premiership and with the Hounds performance squad, they're getting, at least 8 high-quality matches in. How important is this side, say, for the squad success in MLR, but also specifically for those players?
No, it's really important. We know that how competitive the MLR making a 23, making a 15 is, and there's going to be guys that are in your MLR squad that don't get a whole lot of minutes. We did a bit of data analytics piece on it a couple of years ago, where what we were looking for from our top performing guys across the MLR and internationals was over 1,000 minutes per season. That was what we, and a term that's been used a lot, but meaningful. So for someone like Bryce Campbell, that's going to be international MLR rugby. He doesn't get much meaningful matches out of playing Midwest Premiership. But for someone like Peyton Wall, at this stage in his rugby career, sort of any adult rugby he's playing is meaningful because he's just learning. So we kind of looked at that. And then with our performance squad, it was never about creating an academy team from the start that's going to go and just play week in, week out over the country and trying to find matches, because that would actually take away from the amount of rugby that they were able to play. It was always about creating this dual registered model where they train with us in the mornings, they're assigned to a club or they're part of a club, that they train in the evenings and play on the weekend, that through the Midwest Rugby Union and the Midwest Premiership, they get, like you said, 8 to 10 high quality league matches. And then we supplement on the back end of that with between 2 and 4 academy or performance squad matches against, a higher quality opponent, which has worked well for us over the past few years. And it's something we'd love to continue to do.
Well, when you mentioned any of those players, really, but you look at your draft picks this year, Elias, number 1, Leachy McDonald, 3rd rounder for you guys. Other than getting those quality minutes on this performance squad, are they getting, say, Hounds coaching, maybe game plan that the senior side would play in 26? Is that more what they're getting out of this, and maybe getting their feet wet in that level?
Yeah, for sure. We kind of talk about it with those guys as when they graduate college playing rugby, they're a senior, right? And they graduate and they've done all that. Then when they start fresh again in the MLR, we don't want them to start day one in preseason as a freshman. We want them to be a sophomore or a junior, and it's giving them those tools to be able to be successful when day one of training camp rolls around. So yes, they get great access to, our performance staff, our coaching staff, because of the seasonality of it all, they actually get everything that the first team gets. So that because we're not running it concurrently to the MLR season, we're running it in the off season, they get the GPS data, they do all the testing in the gym that we have access to, like all of those sort of things. We have nutritionists and sports scientists and so team psychologists come in and do sort of like lectures and stuff around these like different facets of the game. We spend a lot of time working on them with them on film review and presentation skills and all of that sort of stuff, so that when it comes to like, January, February time and the MLR rolls around, they're in a position to be able to not be trying to play at a level of rugby they've never played at before and learn all these other things, but they know what all the other stuff takes to be a professional rugby player. They can just focus on the on-field stuff.
Wait, Fitzy, sorry. Will, there's video of Elias Garza getting picked up at the airport. Was that you? Were you picking up your own players?
I was, but I was getting a lot of stick because I couldn't pick up the bag. It was too heavy.
Oh. Go ahead.
Well, as you're talking about college rugby, there's could be a good way to talk about this. We've seen more and more college drafted rugby players, so college rugby players who've been drafted into MLR make the jump from their college team, to having an impact in the MLR in their first year. I mean, notably a few there with Chicago, right? Noah Brown, Peyton Wall being just two of them. Certainly Eric Storty and Anthem, Sam Gall as well. But is that a trend? More drafted college players going into MLR having an impact on their first year. Is that a trend that shows how much college rugby is improving?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, exactly the numbers. It would be really interesting to see, like, by year, how many minutes in their first year and all of that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. I think, there's a trickle down effect of smaller number of teams in the competition, less opportunities available, blah, blah, blah. That's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. But yeah, the college rugby game is improving year on year on year. Like we had a joint training session with a college side last year as part of our preseason preparation, and it was unbelievable to see the standard that they operated at, which was awesome. And yeah, some of the guys coming out now are so much better prepared than they would have been, 4, 5, 6 years ago. So the hope is that continues to happen, and potentially even some of these more, skill specific positions, I would say is, can we get, 10s coming out of college that are ready to start in MLR teams, 9s, fullbacks, and less relying on, wingers, back rowers, which is probably the traditional, model where guys are kind of using their athleticism to get minutes on the field versus necessarily the micro skill level that are needed to perform at those positions, front row as well, of course. So like that would be for me the big indicator of how much the college game is improving.
Yeah, and I guess related to that, if you're a college rugby player listening to this and you're playing at a high level, let's say you play, let's just mention 9, 10, or 15 there, what particular or areas maybe generalizing here where those players in those positions need to level up a bit more? There's certain things, as a GM, you want to see more of from players as they continue to develop their skills?
In those positions specifically, like that you mentioned there, I'd probably lean towards more just like time in the saddle and playing games that are like tough and playing games that you're actually losing or having to really compete to win, because the nature of the college landscape, it is what it is. Vast country, teams are spread out. It's often very difficult to get games that really are like tight arm wrestle back and forth. And in those positions like 9, 10, 15 hooker, you need to be playing in games that matter with high stakes, pressure, game-winning kicks. Can you nail a line out on the 5-meter line? All of those sort of things. So that's just that. It's just how many competitive games you get in. Like, I watched all the D1 stuff last year, and as those games get quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals, you got cracking games of rugby. Tight, fiercely competitive games. It's just 3 to 4 of those games a year for college guys just isn't enough. They need to be playing 10 to 12 to 15 games that really matter. And unfortunately, where we're at right now, it's just very difficult to get those. And it's one of the biggest challenges to continue to elevate the standard of play. but that's also at the club level. That's also it's not specific to college. It's specific to the geographical landscape that we are in the US.
Well, here's a question, because you hear this all the time, crossover athletes, everyone talks about, you just get, like football players, college football players to come over and, train them up a little bit, and then we'll throw them on the field. But so here's a silly example. Let's say you're in Chicago there, the Bears, obviously, it's your Bears country there. Say a Chicago Bears practice squad player had a little bit of background in rugby, was like, I'm done with tackle football. I want to take my helmet off and put on the rugby shorts and play. I mean, I guess, do crossover athletes, again, those athletes from other sports, football, wrestling, what have you, how much do they play into the construction of a roster? Are those like conversations that your teams or your group or MLR clubs are interested in having, if there are other, say, professional athletes that are like, you know what, I'm going to pick up rugby? Is that factor into your guys' decision and putting a roster?
It hasn't yet for me. Maybe that will change. I think what you touched on there is, though, like, rugby is such a unique sport in terms of the understanding and how it works and the complexity of it all, that guys that have had previous experience that are then crossover athletes, I think, is where you might find that like diamond in the rough. It's very difficult to necessarily say that someone that's never played the sport before at 27 is just going to be able to, even if they're the best athlete in the world, right? Like it's just a different game. Like, so it's difficult, and it's difficult, especially in some of those, those skill positions. And when I talk skill positions, like, it's not as easy as just taking a 7-footer that's playing for the Bulls and saying, hey, go run a line out. Like the complexity in a line out calling structure system is harder than anything else probably on the field of play for rugby. It would be akin to a very small, but a part of a quarterback's playbook in the NFL. So like, just to like, have the ability to just go and do that because you're 7 feet tall isn't necessarily going to like translate onto being a good second rower. So it's definitely something we should look at, because we have so many amazing athletes here, but like, how do we get them accelerated to be good rugby players too is the $1 million question.
Right. All right. Last question for you, Will. How relieved were you when the Eagles qualified?
I was relieved, but I was never in doubt. The talent, the quality that they have, in that squad, they were slowly getting better. And the performance they put in against Samoa was fantastic. So I was, over the moon for all the coaches, obviously all the players, all of our guys as well. It was fantastic that they got over that hurdle before obviously this November period, which gives them another slate of games where they can prep for 2027 without the, looming feeling of, if they don't win all this sort of stuff. We didn't want a repeat of the Portugal game from a few years ago. So no, it was fantastic. And yeah, we're hopeful now that, again, going back to the Hounds, we've had a lot of older guys that were like my generation of Eagles on the roster over the last couple of years. And we're hoping in this this recruitment cycle that we're able to start to bring in some of these guys that are like the stalwarts of the team at the moment, as well as some guys that we think will project over the next 2 to 6 years and help them and help the Eagles continue to be successful. So, yeah.
Well, Will, I lied. I got one more question for you. Is there anything you can share? I know I know what your answer is going to be probably, but anything you can share about the potential 2026 MLR schedule, like an idea when it's to start? Is there still going to be that international window? Is it going to be over before the international summer window? That kind of stuff. Anything you can share with us?
We're not at this stage. Like, I know they're actively working on a schedule right now. So we're hopeful to get that in the next few weeks or so, I believe.
Yeah.
Certainly at the Hounds, we want to keep our fan base as informed as possible. Our marketing team do an amazing job with doing that. We're in constant communication around transactions and what's going on and all of that sort of stuff. So that's why we want to be as open as possible with our signings, because it builds anticipation, it builds conversation, it builds excitement, all of those sort of things. And Andrew, our director of marketing, does an amazing job with it all and created this unbelievable brand and all these sort of things. So Long-winded answer. As soon as we have the information to share, we will, because that's ultimately like what we want to do. We want to have the most engaged fan base in the league, and the most in the know and in the knowledge as well. So.
Well, Will, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, grabbing you for this amount of time is worth its weight in gold for us this week and any week, and always a great time talking to you. Good luck in 26. Good luck the rest of this recruiting season and signing season. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me on. All right, cheers. Hopefully I'll see you this weekend somewhere. I'll run into you. If it's at the game, chances are I already have a few beers in me, and I apologize ahead of time. All right, buddy. Cheers. Cheers, guys. Oh, yes. I should have a few beers in me now. Anyway.
Responsibly, of course. Responsibly. Always yes. Responsibly.
Yeah, I'm too old to be responsible. Irresponsible? I'm old enough to know what that word should mean. But say, whatever, you know what I'm saying. All right, Fitzy, good stuff. He's good to talk to.
Yeah.
I'm still going to stick with it. He trained with the college team in New Hampshire during COVID, end of COVID. I'm pretty sure. I'll go with that. Anyway, any words of comment, any words of wisdom or anything before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, 2 predictions. One, Ireland beats New Zealand, and U.S. competitive against Scotland.
Yeah, I'm with you on the U.S. thing. I am with you on that. I without knowing who's playing for Scotland this weekend, but I'm with you on that one. Ireland hasn't played together in a while. That's the only thing I have, the only downside I have for them. But I could see it happen. It's going to be close either way. Both games will be close.
Should be fun. Great weekend. Great weekend of rugby.
I'm pumped. All right, buddy. Talk later.
So
Cheers.
long.